Hi, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Cantey, and this is another episode of Living Enlightened Every Day. I love helping people to love their life and live their passion by integrating spirit, mind, and body. And more than that, I love helping to find other people who are out in the world doing just that. And today I have with me a very special guest, Jacque Nelson. She is an inspirational speaker, author, artist, and a channel. Jacque's journey into spirituality began in 2000 when she first heard the voice of an ancient council of spirit beings, the Mary Group. And that opened the door for Jacque to a profound and miraculous relationship. And she is going to share that with us today. Stay tuned. So, as usual, before we begin, I and Jacque Nelson would like to invite you to listen. Just open your heart and listen from your whole being, and listen with that intention that you will hear something amazing and you will find out something wonderful about you in this podcast, because she's going to share some amazing things. Through her work, Jacque Nelson creates a powerful, compassionate space for emotional and spiritual healing. She supports each of us in navigating life with clarity, empowerment, and love. And she channels the Mary Group. They invite us to explore new depths of self understanding, connection, and abundance, always with wisdom and humor. That's one of the things I love about you, Jacque, and the Mary Group. So, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm excited. Excited to be with you.
I'm very excited to be with you. I just love your energy. I love your connection to who you are in this wonderful group. We're going to hear about the Mary Group, but I'd love to start by finding out a little bit about you. I have heard this story, but for those who haven't, what was your life like before the Mary
Uh,
Group? And how did they
um,
make their first appearance?
yeah, it's always so funny to tell the story. Um, I was actually a human resource director for a not-for-profit, and loved it. Loved my work, loved the organization I worked for, loved all the people there. And yet always knew there's something under the surface. There's something going on. Don't know what it is. I've married, have two children. Actually, I've been married twice. So, um, my current husband, we've been married for 20, this is awful. 20 some years.
We won't tell him.
Oh, he's used to it. Dates are not a thing for me. I don't retain them well. Um, but we knew we wanted to do something with our lives. He was in printing, I was in HR. We knew we wanted to do something felt different. And we always laugh now thinking we thought maybe we'd do something really out of the box, like run a campground or have an Airbnb or bed and breakfast or something.
Yeah, way out there.
Way out there, right? And so we were kind of searching and looking, and the Marys. So we looked at a lot of things. We spent our first married Valentine's Day together with an elder from New Zealand, Mackie, who was just incredible, and so much magic happened during that time. And it's a kind of experience where you really realize what's all actually happening in life that you might not have been noticing, and it's always there. The Marys often say, "Welcome to this place where you've always been and never been before," right? And so kind of really waking to that. From there, we got into Reiki and different things. We would host speakers in our home for people to come and gather. We're all about community, bringing people together, creating that synergy. learning from each other in like intimate settings.
Hmm.
Um, and then I introduced him. I went to somebody else who was hosting a salon, we called them back then, back in 1998, 99, 2000. And there's a gentleman there by the name of Robert Dubiel, and he does a lot of work with knowing how to understand your body signals. So when something's happening inside of you, how to climb in and know what it's telling you.
Hmm.
And I got my husband a private session with him, and he was talking to him about that same thing. Like, we know there's something we want to do, but we can't quite land in it. We don't know quite what it is. So Robert told Don to come home and have me sit down with him for 5 minutes a day, which was brilliant on Robert's part. And meditate and call in our guides, and with the intention of getting some opening into what it is we might want to do with our lives. And the 5 minute brilliance is that I'm very ADHD. I don't sit still well. I paint to meditate, or I go walk in the woods to meditate, because for me, there's just got to be more going on than sitting still. And so the 5 minutes, I thought, okay, I'll do that. Right now, Don's been meditating since he was like 11, right? His mom took him. He grew up in the city, and I think his mom did it to save his life. Like, okay, you're at that age where you're starting to make some decisions, and let's teach you how to meditate. So took him to with some transcendental meditation people, and he got his word, and all of the stuff. And he just really liked it. It would just really connected for him. So he can meditate. He does astro travel, all that kind of stuff. Um, and so we sat down, and the very first time we sat down together, I, closed my eyes, and I started just like my face started kind of like moving and contorting and shifting. And without my, effort for that, I thought, well, that's interesting. Second time we sat down, there was a lot more body movement and just like this vibration running through me. And I just figured that was meditation because, like I said, I don't do it sitting still well. And my husband, meanwhile, is like, can't you sit still for 5 minutes?
I was going to say, now we know why you don't like meditation. It's like, if you're
Right,
doing all
right.
this, yeah.
I sat still. I'm like flailing. So the third time we sat, and we were sitting up, with our backs against the headboards of our bed, and then no, we were laying down. That's right, but we were both side by side in our bed, and then I started hearing, of I would say it's a voice, but I don't really like hear a voice. It's like a movement or a signal or like a guidance. It's interesting to try to offer it. I learned what the Marys are saying when they're saying it, just like the person who's listening to them. It's not like it gets downloaded and then I repeat
Oh,
it.
I love that. You're right. I do
Yeah,
understand what you're saying. It's almost
yeah.
like a signal that you're
I'm translating, and actually
waiting.
just over the weekend a friend of mine said, "Oh, you know what? It's like learning a second language. Like the Marys are sometimes the Marys will say things in several different ways, or they use a lot of words, because I was joking about how they're not very succinct. And she said, I think it's kind of that thing where it's a second language for them." So I'm like, "Oh, that's a brilliant kind of insider idea around that." So it just comes through. And so I did feel this. I felt like the energy of kinesiology, which I learned is the study of, movement. Um, and then they said, sit up. And I'm resistive. So I'm like, well, if this is happening, you sit up, you wanna- you do it. And they did. They popped straight up like boom. And Don looks over at me. But it was so interesting because it was like we both knew what was happening without having any idea what was happening.
Wow.
And so I sat up, they looked at him, and he somehow knew immediately to start asking questions. Like he started like going, what's going on? what's happening. And they started speaking. Now, at that point, I thought it was just one being coming through. And people will ask, was it scary? Was it frightening? I'm like, you're just flooded in love. And it just feels like the most natural thing. And the Marys talk about every single being channels. We all do it in differing ways. And people will, can you show me how? I really don't know how it occurs. I just say I open into the most innocence that I can find. And when I'm in a state of innocence, there's no barrier. So, they can easily come through. And then like I said, I observe them. People have asked me where I am when I channel. I said, I think I'm where I'll be when I'm dead. It's just this huge, amazing energy field. Um, and I have to listen to recordings of the Marys afterwards as myself because it feels completely different to take it in as
Mm,
me listening than when they're bringing it through. So for me to gain for myself, because it really is true, everything they talk about has something in it for each person if they're open to it.
mm,
Um, so yeah, third time, and then they started moving around and they rolled over onto the floor, and Don's asking them all kinds of questions. And it was spring, it was March of 2000, and we had our window open. And they went over and they're inhaling, they're really, really using my senses, which they talk about a lot, like what our senses actually are. And we have our physical senses, which they will say is that beautiful human, physical part of existence, that we get to have physical sensation through our senses. And they're just in awe of that. And they love to get to feel that through me. And then we have our infinite, vibrational senses that really have no boundary and bring, connect us into everything all the time. And so they were, inhaling and talking. And at one point, my husband reached over and he touched my hand when they were in, and they just paused. And then they just like flooded with this like tears. And it was just this amazing, they were just saturating in the pleasure of human touch that we get to
wow.
physically, tactilely touch and feel. And it was just beautiful. It has certainly given me a lot of appreciation for who we are as physical beings in a physical world, and getting, to have that pleasure with each other. And they'll sometimes tell people, just walk through your house and touch every surface, just pause and touch every surface, reconnect with the consciousness of what's in your own home. They're always just like, there's so many ways for us to stand still, no matter if we're feeling jubilant or really chaotic or terrified. There's so many ways to just remember and come into immediate connection with what's real instead of maybe sometimes what's reality, and ground in that. So anyway, I kind of am going off, but that was our first experience with them coming, all the way through. They stayed in, they talked for quite a while, maybe, an hour or so. And then they were getting ready to go. And my husband said, will you be back? And again, at that point, I thought it was one, I could only sense it as one being. And I always refer to them as they now. And they said, anytime you ask.
Wow.
And he said, well, how do we, what do we call you? How do we ask? And I still remember, and I still feel the flash of the lifetime. Now I will tell you, there's nine of them.
Oh,
They're
wow.
very differing. They've come together in this time with these differing energies to reflect. Um, the reason they're moving with us is moving us out of separation and into union, which is our natural state, and to reflect everything in each human. So they have this ability to recognize and help people feel seen. Um, but that one said, "Well, I think my name was Mary in a lifetime, so you can call me Mary." And so that's where Mary comes from. And now we call them the Marys because there's more of them. And they do each have their distinctive, we've learned, they've let us kind of They've helped us name them because names aren't that important in spirit. According to the Marys, they're like, well, it could be this, or this is the vibration, or this is something that would feel like it connects. Um, Although it's interesting because when somebody asks them about another person, they'll always say, can you speak their first name or what you call them?
Mm,
And then when the person speaks it, what they're doing is they talk about that, like several people know you, right? And yet each person who speaks your name, you have a unique strand of connection with every person you know. So when they speak your name, that's a unique connection that nobody else has. So that's what the mirrors are looking for, is what's that vibrational strand, to see what the relationship, or what's important, and to move with, if the other person is willing to, be seen or participate. So I always think that's really neat to know that we've got all these strands with all of these differing ways of being known and
yes.
knowing. So anyway, that's how they came in, and then we slowly introduced them. I have a good friend who was the first person I told about it, and I always say, I don't know if I would have continued if my husband hadn't been so enthusiastic, and my friend hadn't been so enthusiastic, because I tend to like have experiences and then just move on, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm really, really glad they helped me ground into this, because I've been doing it for 20, 26, 24 years. Yeah,
Yeah.
25, some, right?
Well, that
Yeah.
is such a beautiful story, and I haven't heard all the pieces of that, and it's really wonderful. But I want to go back to something you
Mhm.
said in the very beginning, and that is, I think one of the things I would love to point out is that when you were in HR, and you mentioned your
Yes.
husband too, whether I'm
Mhm.
sure it was both of you feeling this together, but you said that that tugging, that something was tugging on you to explore something new, something
Yeah.
different. What else is there in life? And you and
Yeah.
I were talking about this before we started recording. It was just that idea that for most of us, there's that longing, that like, what else is there? There's something else.
Something's missing.
Something's missing, and we
Mhm.
can't name it. And if somebody says, "Oh, you just need a vacation, or you just need to change your job," and we do, it's like, "Oh, I'm on vacation, I'll change my job," and it's still
Still
there.
there.
And
Mhm.
so that
Mhm.
I love that you were aware of that, because I think more and more people are becoming aware of that longing in their heart, and they're listening to these podcasts. They're listening to these
Yeah.
things from all these different, modalities and different teachers. The other thing you mentioned was how you came to accept them to move through you. And you
Mhm.
said going to this place of innocence, and I thought that is so beautiful. And what I heard from my mind was
Mhm.
to really be in that place of innocence for ourselves, that childlike innocence. We have
Yeah.
to really love ourselves,
Oh, we do. Yeah.
because we have to, because the child that we were, let's say, are, but were
Mhm.
loved itself. We loved rolling around in the mud, or
You're so free.
getting
Yes.
dirty, or getting wet or sandy or windy. We
Yes.
didn't care
Mhm.
that our hair was
Mhm.
messed up or that our shoes were torn, whatever it was. We loved ourselves
Yeah.
because we didn't know any better. And we
Yeah.
knew the truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somehow we kind of get pushed into, oh, we did this wrong, and we don't do this right, and we're not as good as this person, or
Mhm.
as smart as
Mhm.
that person, or as tall as that person. And we, even though those might be facts of our body, let's say,
Mhm.
they're not
Mhm.
the truth of our being, but we
Right.
we act like they're the
Right.
truth of our being.
Right.
I just want people to hear that. I think that's such a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
It's if we can go into that meditative state for even 5
5
minutes
minutes.
a day.
Yeah. Yeah. A day. Just give
Like,
it to
what,
yourself.
and
Yeah.
and then love ourselves into that sweet
Mhm. Mhm.
place of
Yeah.
innocence and acceptance.
Absolutely. You're bringing up a couple of things for me, if you don't mind.
No, of course.
Because, when you talk about the longing, And the Marys, just so you know, they're here. They'll probably be coming in to chat. So I'll say a couple things while I'm here, and I can. But there was so many teachings, and when you talk about that longing, I've learned so much, like feeling to the vibration or something, or notice the vibration of something. And longing can feel kind of desperate. Longing can feel hopeless, or like you don't know if you're ever going to learn what it is or what to connect to it or satisfy, what that sense is. And the Marys talk a lot about, the difference between coming from what we don't want, which always has some sense of threat in it, or from what we do want. So when we put
Mm,
that longing in what we do want, which is connected with our essence, our actual natural self, yes, then that longing is, I'm not willing to shrink to fit or settle for something less, and my drive and my passion are so curious, then I'm going to keep rolling forward and seeing, is it that, what is it something that hasn't even been discovered yet? If you're in the I don't want to not get what I want, then that's a don't want, and thread opens and can feel kind of stuck. So the Marys always talk about, anytime you catch yourself in a don't want, it feels a little heavy or dense or destabilizing. So to take a breath, and they're always like, you all know what you don't want, and you talk to yourselves and each other about what you don't want so much. And so like, take it as a cue, like, oh, I'm thinking about what I don't want. Thank you for the reminder to bring it over into my center, and what do I want? And want in this space they talk about so often isn't that achy want that can be over here. It's original vibration. Want is open. It's the same energy as open. So what I do open, or what I do open to, or what I open the runway for, or the attraction for, is what matches a sense I can't even define yet, but I can feel how satiating it'll be when I feel when it happens, right? So even just beginning to talk with yourself that way, and know there's a bigger possibility than maybe what you've been taught or what's in front of you. The other thing that really stuck with me, and I'm probably gonna have to get out of the way here soon because Mary's coming in, but um, is when you talk about, it's modification. The Mary's always saying how, when you said, when you start comparing yourself and you start being in competition, and then that noise comes in of, I'm not good enough, or I'm not whole enough. And so it kind of sets you aside from that loving of yourself, right? And so, and then it's hard, how do I love myself if I'm so modified to try to fit some idea? And the Marys talk about, there's a difference between adjusting. They said all of you will adjust 1,000 times a day in your internal world and in your world that you share, because you're all just a little differing. And they talk a lot about that. But they said, so you adjust for the flow, right? And how it all moves. Modification is different because you have to actually give up something of yourself, or
mm,
something really important to you, to satisfy another, or to perceivingly satisfy another. And
right.
they say it's what happens in most relationships that don't work, is you come in that first pow, like, wow, look at you, it's vibrational. But then you start trying to carve each other and carve yourselves to satisfy each other. And then suddenly, like, that thing that drew you together is so out in, the periphery, that you don't feel it anymore. And that some people get really upset because I'll say, I changed for you. I did everything you asked me to. And they're going, yeah, and I don't like it.
Right, right.
They're going, but here I am now, this changed person. So, well, then revamp into yourself, right? So,
That's
but it's that modifying us takes us away from ourselves. So that step of, coming in and saying, what is the innocence of loving me? And it is that, playfulness. And I remember a story often, a friend of mine shares all the time. We've been friends since junior high. When she saw me, we would walk down from a school to about 2 blocks to a grocery store, and we could only so many go in at the same time, right? And it was pouring down rain, and there was this big shelter, and there was a downspout that just had the top of it, and there was just this gushing water. And still in 7th grade, I had my innocence. Mary said that most children will decide if they're keeping their light and their spark at around between 9 and 11, somewhere in there, that, am I going to tuck and conform, or am I just going to say, I don't care what anybody else thinks, right? And most of us do something a bit in the middle, probably. But I knew I had gym class next. I do tell people that I knew I had gym class next. And I was so tempted by this water. I just went and stood under it and just got soaking wet. And she's very put together, and she said she stood at the other end of that shelter and just stared at me, first going shocked, and then, but what built in her was, holy cow, she's just so free. I want to be like that.
Mm.
So, and I think that for me, and she became a teacher, and she would tell her students those stories, and it's finding that place where you let yourself be free. That's that innocence, and it really is, loving. I certainly, still doing this work, have had to walk through, and still sometimes walk through, when people ask me what I do, knowing it could be a sink or swim situation, either either they'll be curious and we'll have a conversation, or they won't. I've had actually somebody I imagined would be fine, told him, he literally stared at me and walked to the other side of the room to get away from me. It's like, wow, it's fascinating.
That's that's so true. I have family who does that. So
Yeah, yeah,
they're like, "You
absolutely.
do what?" No, and they're like, "Where's the time? I gotta
Yeah, huh?
go. Someone's calling me," you know?
Yeah, because they are
Yeah.
uncomfortable. Yeah. Hmm.
Well, I'm gonna tag into that right now because don't you find that there's so many more people, of course, there's people like that who will walk away and just,
Hmm.
that's way out of their box.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
aren't there so many more people now? Is it me? But we're talking channeling, alien
yeah, yeah,
entities,
yeah, yeah.
Palladians from all different parts of the galaxies. We're talking higher source self,
Yes, yes,
ascended
yes.
masters, just really beautiful, transmissions coming through, but still many, the ones that I am in touch with, I will say,
Hmm.
speaking the truth. There really
Yeah.
is,
Hmm.
a truth that is underlying, and we all can recognize it really from our heart space, which is
Yeah.
why I invite people to open their heart
Hmm.
when
Hmm.
they listen. And it's so beautifully said in so many different ways. Don't you feel like more people are opening into that heart space and they're like, "You do what? Tell me about it,"
I do, I do, I do. I certainly don't lack for people to talk to, and the variety of people and the walks of life and the stories they're all over the place. So it really is. We've, the Marys have talked with priests, the Marys have talked with rabbis, the Marys have talked with atheists, the Marys have talked with school teachers and construction workers, and it's just I think we're in this time, and it's certainly charged up, and there's a lot of practice of division. The Marys are always like, there is actually no division. There's a thick practice of division. And that's part of the suffering we experience,
That's
right? Is that
right.
we're trying to act like we're not all one. Yes. And we're thick in that division, mostly from fear. And yet, absolutely, there is, and Mary's also will offer, without curiosity, nothing would exist. And without curiosity, there's nowhere to have a conversation. So, pretty soon, quickly, if you can have a conversation about anything, actually, with somebody, if they're curious, if somebody's curious. If they're not, it's the conversation ends. That's where you feel that still space, right? But if you remain curious, if each of us remains curious, and if we choose how I was curious about that. I could have been offended or hurt or afraid, when that happened. I was just so curious. And then and when you let your innocence be there, and yes, because you're loving yourself and you're loving that person, for who they are and where they are, it's so easy to just continue forward, without the setback. So yeah, curiosity and leaning in, and I do absolutely believe, and that's why the Mary said they're here, because we are in the grandest time for union, which is our original state of being. And we've gone through all this practice of separation, and union is far into its, opening as it's been since separation occurred. And and it's not going to be the union we have experienced. We're now embodied. We have life and death cycles, things that happened because of separation that weren't there before. And
Mm,
yet we have those now, and they have value. And so union, as it opens now, will have our experience with separation. And I always look at it as, sometimes when I've experienced something, if I see it as an ad, it always has a gift. It has something to tell me
mm,
about what I'm doing next. It has something to add to my experience. But if I shrink to fit or modify to just hear the noise, then I can get afraid and not grow. But yeah, absolutely. So many people, and you mentioned art. Art is channeling
mm.
the Marys will talk about. I'm just going to let them come through because they're going. We'll tell the story. Are you all right with them coming
Of
through?
course. Oh my
Okay.
goodness. Yes.
ah. We're right here. We're right here. We're right here. Yes, we don't want to be in the peanut gallery anymore. Yes. Hello to you. Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. Oh, can we sniff you up just a little bit?
Yes.
Good. Because we already got you in our nostrils. Yes. Oh, what a wonderful, glorious light you are.
Mm.
And we just heard today, we bet you say that to everybody, yes? And of course, you're a differing light, yes. And
I love it.
yet, truly, the unstoppable passion. If you don't mind, may we speak with you just a little bit about what you're identifying to us as we
Oh,
come in?
please. Yes.
Uh,
Thank
it is. It's one of the things we feel compelled to share as we look at you. One of our teachings to individuals is that we heard you talk about the longing, yes? And we often will speak with people, and what we recognize is they believe they're starving, that they're
Mm,
starving. And we look and actually, we were talking with a particular friend. We love when we're talking. Every conversation we've had has given us opportunity to look at your whole of humanity and learn and to offer. Yes. And so she was, in a challenging and struggling position. And so we were watching because we watch from the loft view, so views are a little wider, yes. And we said, "Oh, you think you're starving?"
mm,
And holy cow, can that be hypnotizing? Yes. And can it guide everything? And if you believe you're starving, you will reach for anything to feed you.
mm,
Yes. You'll like, maybe that will feed me, or that would feed me, or I can't even find that thing that I'm trying to reach for that will feed me. And I'm just empty and I'm starving and I can't get the nutrients I need and I don't know how to generate them. So even when you tell somebody, you know, find that love for yourself, and they're going, I don't even know how to get to that, yes, because I'm starving. So the reason we're bringing that is we're looking at you as something that's differing and that we'd like to share here is that we told our friend, you're not starving,
mm,
you are powerfully hungry.
mm. Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
And it's a significant difference because when I'm powerfully hungry for something, yes, you're not going to take or just do whatever is there, what you think and you're not going to look within you for what doesn't know or what feels depleted. You're going to shift how you source yourself and where you source yourself and what you realize about yourself that you source. Yes, you're going to know that your powerful hunger is reaching for a sense of true quenching extraordinary satisfaction. Yes. And
Yes.
so even when you noted that, Jackie said, yeah, a great job, that it's good. Most people looking at it would think you got it made. Yes. You love where you work. You love your work. And yet she knew, and she wasn't starving, but she knew there's something she was powerfully hungry to experience and to be in the world, that it wasn't satisfying. It didn't have that for her. And
Mm,
so you open and you say, even though I don't know what it is, I want to quench what I'm powerfully hungry for. And so then we talk to people about starting to notice what calls your attention, what feels nourishing to you, what just makes you curious. Start noticing. One time we had people, create puzzle pieces. Yes. What are all of these puzzle pieces? And you can do it through creating lists and pulling out words and ideas and feelings. And then it comes down to kind of that central center puzzle piece. If you want ways to get to it, and yet, and then that, what do all of these things that I enjoy or that I feel fulfilled by or that I want more of, or that tantalize me, or that even allow me to step into the depthfulness of what aches, yes, without being terrified I'll never find my way back out, yes. All of these things have a central element, and they're you, yes. And what it is do you mind if we just launch and talk a lot?
No, I don't mind.
We tend to do that, yes. So what that does is we just lost our train, yes. But it's when you start looking at what is it that turns me on, or that makes we love to say activates your saliva glands, yes,
Oh.
because these are precious parts of your being, and your saliva glands are really, really a good physical part of your physical self. They help you break down and digest, and they give you a lot of information. And your saliva glands are also so connected to your passion and what is the way of you. So when we talk about that thing you're looking for, that thing that drives you to lean into what you're powerfully hungry for, is your spirit.
Mm.
And so when we talk about your mind, your heart, your soul, your body, your spirit, when we refer to spirit, it's the way of you. It's that fearless, excited, let's go, let's find out, let's learn, let's be curious. No fear. Yeah, so it's good to balance it. We used to say it's good to balance it with your self-preservation fear. Yes, not your false fear. There's a lot of that. Yes, and yet self-preservation fear, helps you not to step in front of a moving vehicle, or hopefully helps you to be loud enough to help you to care for your emotional well-being, your mental well-being, your physical well-being, yes. And
Yeah.
yet we also, and this is where we love to talk with people, because we started looking self-preservation fear, and then self-preservation itself, the consciousness of it,
Mm.
said, hey, we'd like to have a talk with you. Yes. We said, yeah, what you got? And it said, I'm not a fear.
Yes.
I'm an insistence. So your self-preservations will insist that you insist on what you need to be well, what you need to have innocence, what you need to feel your trust and comfort and care and movement and mojo and abundance. Yes, it is your self-preservation is there to insist that you live, and that you believe in yourself, and that you know how to navigate and move in life, not in a, if you like a squeaky, quiet, difficult way, do it. Yes. And yet, if that doesn't feel good to you, then it's to breathe out into that. I am powerfully hungry. And we can even already hear, we often hear people saying, but, sometimes I just can't find what's going to satisfy my craving. Yes. Then keep looking. Yes. Just make sure you're taking yourself with you. What is satisfying, and what note does it bring, and what other note could harmonize with it or accompany it? Yes. That brings it into another state. So as we're looking at you, we'll round it to that again. Yes. As we see you as a person who is really powerfully hungry and curious and edgeless.
Oh.
And while others can like say, oh, it's this, we heard you say, because we've been listening, yes, oh, you need a vacation. Oh, sure, vacation sounds good. Yes. I couldn't do it. It's
No,
temporary.
but I'll
Yes.
take it.
I'll take a vacation. Sure, thanks. Yes. Or I'll change a job. That's fun to, try something new and see what else is there. And yet your edgelessness in that is, that anything that feels too contained, or that has like a beginning and an end, isn't going to be enough, because your curiosity is in what's the more. Yes, does that make sense?
Oh,
And
yeah.
when you embrace that, now if you come from an achiness of what's the more I haven't touched, it's hard. You can feel very much like you're suffering. If you get into that true curiosity, which is one of your most powerful tools of creation, yes, then what's the more? What's the more? That comes into your do one that, this one was talking about a bit. It comes into your center and you get really curious. And we're going to give you one more thing and then we're going to ask you to ask us some questions. Yes. But what we really, really want to bring to those that you have asked to open their hearts and allow for there to be space, to be heard, to be seen, to be real, to be mattering, to be whole. And we're just going to throw in there just for a moment. We're really going to encourage you, and it may fly in your face, and you can let us know that. We'd love to have a good argument in union, yes? When people talk about wanting to tap into their higher self, we really encourage you to take another breath and talk about tapping into the whole of yourself. Because when we see people say my higher self, it's automatically reduces the value of other parts of you. Yes, like the higher self must be better. The whole of yourself is full value. Yes, and so that is a wonderful thing. But one thing we'd like to offer is who, what, why, when, where, those questions. Yes, hold them in the palms of your own hands, which is where you create from. Yes, your life is in your own hands. It really is. And some people say, I'd like somebody else to carry it. Yes, no, you don't. You like somebody else to help you, move and celebrate it and nourish it and find out about it. But you get to have your own life in your own hands. And into your own hands, when you bring in and you're in your center of your do one, how you can be over here saying, how is it ever going to happen? Or how do I get to that? Or what do I need to know? And you can just feel the like heaviness or the suffering in it. Yes. But when you remember, I'm gonna fill these things with curiosity. How? How is that gonna happen? How am I gonna have what I need? Big difference between need and needy, by the way. Yes. And yet need
Yes.
is wonderful. But how am I going to have how? Let me turn up the volume. How? And you can leave it there because when you have true curiosity, it isn't really looking for an immediate answer. It's looking to open something. Yes. And so it is how, and then feel the joy of the float. Like I don't need to know right away. I just opened a whole world by actually curiously asking, yes, what is going to happen, or what's going to happen? Where is an answer coming from? When? Oh, when is it going to occur? Yes. When you can bring it into your actual natural state as a creator. Yes. Instead of in that noisy place where you're afraid because other people have told you how things are hard or difficult and there's only so much to go around and you think you're in competition and you're measuring all the time. And by the way, we always remind people there's no measurement in the universe. None. None. Everything is full and equal value. Yes.
Yeah.
And so when you hold it in your hands and you can let yourself feel that lifted energy, then we always say, bring your eyelids across your eyes and let your vision go inward and take a good look at you, the true you, not the you that's been buried under some stuff or hasn't, maybe comes out to peak sometimes, or maybe even spends a good amount of time out and yet would like more. Yes. Look at that free being that you actually are. And you have everything you need. And some of them you're just still plugging into, and some things you're unplugging from. And this is such a rich time to have this conversation with you because you're shifting seasons and you're all so deeply connected to the earth. Yes. And so your winter season, we often hear people say is dormant season. No, it's not. Winter season is the internal aliveness, development, creation, causing what pops out on the tip of that tree in the spring. Yes. And so as you're in this season, look at what do I want to make sure I take into my soil, my soul soil, the soil of my life, the soil of my heartness and my existence and my truing. Yes. What do I want to take in there with me? And what might I say, you know what? I've had enough of an experience with that. And while I'm going to honor and care for and know that it's been a gift in my life, it's not going to get seeded this time. Yes, does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so bringing what you do want into your soil. And what you don't want, just taking your breath and making that I'm saying yes to the relief. I'm saying yes to releasing that for now. If I ever want it or need it again, I can certainly retrieve it. I just don't need to take it into this internal being I'm going into in the winter season and causing and creating my rebirthing from. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Now we'll be still, maybe for a minute. Yes?
Well, you brought up a couple of things that I
Yes.
really just want to acknowledge. One is I've really never heard the wonderful comparison between powerfully hungry and starving. And
Yeah.
then you kept bringing that, there is a fine line. And I'm going to ask you about that in a minute because there's a sense of the same thing, but it's not the same thing. One is coming from fear or,
Mhm.
lack. One is
Yes.
coming
Yes.
from, I don't know, but, you know,
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
hungry
Yes.
and that's not it. And that's powerfully hungry, and that's not gonna do it for me. That hot dog, no, that's not gonna do it. The
Yeah,
other
that's
is
not it.
it yeah, and the other is that curiosity, because to me, that goes back to what Jackie was saying about, how she, allowed or accepted your, visitation,
Mhm.
let's put it that way,
Mhm.
whatever
Mhm.
that is,
Mhm.
that frequency, and that curiosity is, again, it's a lightness of being of what is this?
Yeah.
And when will this happen? And how in the world is this going to happen? And its
Yes.
curiosity has such a childlike, beautiful quality, whereas the other is like you mentioned, a lot
Mhm.
heavier. Now,
Mhm. It
how do
is.
we shift that? Because it's very nuanced for
Mhm.
so many
Mhm.
of us. It's very
Yes. Yes.
nuanced.
Mhm.
Talk a little bit about that shift from, uh, I guess,
Starving.
fear into delight, you know?
Mhm. Mhm. It really is mindset. Yes. And so, practice.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
And
good.
so it's well, I can't quite get there. I still feel like I'm starving, or I'm not even quite getting what is the difference. If I'm powerfully hungry, I still don't have what I need. Yes. And yet, if truly to say, hey, there must be some don't want going on. Let me get that over in here into my essential original essence, which is always just light. Yes. And let me look at if I'm powerfully hungry and I can be curious about it, those are activators. Yes, those are movements. And well, I don't want to have to work too hard at it, or I don't know how to work hard. I'll work as hard as I need to, but know how to. And so then that noise can come in. So we often talk about your true voice, yes? And one of the ways you can know that it's the autonomy of your own true voice and not a voice that is influenced by everything you've heard or by the different things that have come in is that your true voice will actually is also really, really good at listening.
Mhm.
Your true voice isn't afraid to listen. So the reason we bring that into this is okay, so if I have a naysay going on, my true voice isn't afraid to listen, that there's a difference there. And so I'm going to use my actual energy. And you're an infinite being who is a curious causer and creator, yes? And so I'm going to ask for my true voice to help me understand what the difference is between starving, because I can be powerfully hungry and feel like I'm starving because I don't have what I want or need and I'm afraid I'm not going to get there. And yet you'll start to, when you listen, you'll go, oh, I do know that when I'm powerfully hungry, I'm looking for something that actually matches me. I'm looking for something that I feel nourished by and that I can nourish because there's a mutual exchange. Yes. I'm receiving and I'm offering. That's natural. That's actually, if you want to look for an indicator of that, it's your inhale and your exhale.
Mm.
They go together. An inhale on its own, it's wonderful, but won't last long. Yes. And an
Right.
exhale on its own, fabulous, but it needs that partnership. Yes. And so sometimes it's just going into your breath and feeling the mutual exchange, the movement, the momentum. And we always encourage people to pause in the interchange. So inhaling and pause in that moment where they meet each other, and then where the inhale feeds the exhale, and the exhale comes out, and pause. And that exhale actually generates and feeds the next and stimulates the next inhale. That's actually the natural way of exchange for people. But with fear, fearful, false fear and all of those sorts of fears, reactive fear, people get kind of breathless or caught up. And
Mhm.
so it is, to look at, how do I feel when I'm powerfully hungry? And I open my senses and I start looking for what I want to satisfy that. And maybe I won't find it, but I'm willing to look. Yes. And you can also go into your memory cells and say, when have I felt like actually physically hungry? And I look in the cabinet and there's food in there, but I close the cabinet. Yes. It's because you're actually powerfully hungry for something that you're not seeing in there. Yes. Sometimes we say, go ahead, get into powerful hunger and look again, and look with curious eyes. You might actually see something in there you desire. Yes. So it's adding curiosity and presence to all of it, and then your energy begins to shift. You come out of suffering. You can't, and if you just, you can't heal or true suffering inside of it. Yes.
Yeah.
So it's like you can look, you can notice, and you can climb in to learn about it, but don't move in and decorate. Yes. Climb in, get a really good understanding, and then step out so you have more in your breath than just, what that starving or that suffering is. Yes. What else is possible? Because the powerfully hungry it's a generator energy, and when you turn it on, it will actually start to shift with your mind and your focus and your thought process and your what you're attracted to. It will activate your saliva glands. It'll start to give you cues. Like, that could be satisfying. Yes. But again, it's never still about looking out here for what will feed you. It's about opening to the space in you that gets clearer and clearer about what's a match for you. Yes, what does soothe, what does true. What we talk about truing, we have a lot of people come to us and talk about, I need to heal, or I'd like to help heal people. And again, we look at its vibration, and we know exactly what you're talking about. And we agree, we know you're telling the truth. And yet we kept saying something's going to skew in there. And so I need to heal again is saying there's a deficit that I'm trying to fix.
Mm.
Yes. And so we started saying, what is it that people need? And then we happened on someone truing a bicycle wheel. Yes. So they've got the bicycle on a rack, and they're loosening spokes and tightening spokes and checking the wobble. Yes. And then at one point, because they're really listening, each adjustment, they're listening. And then they spin that wheel, and it just goes, and it's beautiful, and it's ready. So what we notice is, oh, you want to true to yourself. You want to true to your true energy. You want to true to your essence and your way of being with yourself and in the world. And you want to feel the flow of that. So you're ready to go. Yes. You aren't trying to fix something. You're trying to tune and true. Yes. To you and
Mm.
to you and how you are in relationship with life. Yes. And feel that. And then that's when you start really recognizing and knowing what matches and doesn't match for you. Yes. And so you don't need to
Yes.
expect anything.
Well, and of course, that's again another new analogy I haven't heard, and I just love it so much. And the idea that came to me, there were two. I'll have to think about the first one, but the last one was the wheel. And it's the idea that when we're listening to tuning the spokes and everything, it may not be like what we then we spin it, oh, it's still
Yeah.
wobbling. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
but we don't know until we make that adjustment, and so it's that idea of being inspired,
Mhm.
on the breath, in the breath, and an idea comes in, and test it out, like, dip our toes in.
Yeah.
It's like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
it feels really good," but it's
Yeah. That
still,
feels
the
good.
wheel's not quite right, but I'll step into it a little more, or
Yes,
then
yes. What
then the
else can I
next
notice? Yes,
yes.
yes. What else can I put a little more volume or a little less volume or a little more groundedness or a little more flight? Yes. How can I move with this? Because that it comes with that love. You talk about so much, we do have a, loving yourself is extraordinary. And we do talk though about having that be an invitation and and you're also inviting yourself out to help yourself know how to do that, because we've also met many people who are so suffering because they can't figure out how to love themselves. And
Mm,
they've learned that they need to love themselves before they can be loved or love anybody else. And we're saying, please know that the truth is you always have and always will love yourself. All you're doing is looking for the note that you can hear it, feel it, sing with it. Yes, because it's already moving. You get to love and you get to be loved even before you feel that full unwobbled self of loving. Yes. So you're not, don't go in a waiting room for that. And don't go in, I need to judge myself or condemn myself if I get there or not. It's humor, lightheartedness, grace, delightfulness, curiosity. All of those things are really amazing things to move with as you're interacting and experiencing the love that you have for yourself. It can't be missing. It can be buried and hidden and distorted, yes, and yet that's why we always say close your eyes and let your vision go inwards and just really look at not, no, maybe not the middle section or, where it's all messy and everything that's ever occurred is there. And yet to just kind of see with new eyes every day. We tell people all the time, please feel awkward often. Yes, because people will do everything not to feel awkward. Yes, oh, it's going to make me look bad or weak or something. Oh, please feel awkward. It just means you're experiencing something in a way you never have before. And so you can't possibly be comfortable yet. Yes. And sometimes you don't ever really want to get too comfortable. Yes, because you want to keep growing and learning. And yet, oh, this is a little awkward. Do I want to keep leaning in? Is it something, if the awkward doesn't come with shaming, if the awkward doesn't come with condemning or judging, it's just like, oh, there's something I could know more about or know about
right.
myself in. Yes, it's an invitation. Yes, absolutely. So it is the one of the things we'd like to say in that loving yourself is really for you to know, for every human to know. If every human could really know this, yes, every one of you is an add. You're not a subtraction from the world. And we know that a lot of people try to keep themselves small or try not to get in the way or try not to be too much or because they've been told they are. Yes. Or they're not the same as you are. You're an ad exactly as and who and what you are. Part of why you came in was to be an ad. You
Mm.
get to decide how you play that out. It's not pre-recorded and you're just filling in the blanks. Yes. And so, and you can adjust. And somebody asked us one time, was guilt an original part of humans? We said, yes. However, guilt originally, and its original vibration it's a notifier. It lets you, it's an adjustment vibration. So it's saying, hey, if it doesn't feel quite right, take a look. You might be a little off from center. You might be doing things in a way that don't really align with you. So take a look at that. It's really a valuable, partner in there to help you, stay in your integrity and in your joy and in your truth. Yes. Instead of, a lot of people come from the outside in or they get afraid and everybody gets messy. Everybody gets messy and does things that, they might want to change. Yes. And yet if you hold on to guilt and it takes over, then you can just feel that. But if you think of, oh, if I feel a pain of guilt, all it's saying is, hey, check and see if you're in alignment with yourself. Are you being true to you? Are you being true to who and how you want to be in the world? And then be truthful with yourself. Yes, because when you actually ask yourself a question, you'll answer it. If you question yourself, you'll dodge it. Yes, because nobody likes being questioned. Yes. And so it is. So you're an ad. Like enjoy. Like I'm an ad in every moment. It doesn't. I can be an ad by being quiet. I can be an ad by pitching in on the conversation. I can be an ad by sitting by myself or being in. Causing lots of big things to happen. Anything. I'm an ad. Just to know I'm an ad. Ooh, I get to wiggle that through and know that that's the truth about me. Yes. You're also an answer.
Yeah.
And so on that one, we offer that the pain we see so often in people is you're trying to be the answer. Well, you better get the answer right, or you better have the answer. And it's painful. Then you get scared and you start to talk to yourself, tell yourself all kinds of things that aren't accurate. Yes. And you shrink and your confidence gets played with and you have all kinds of things happen. Yes. And you get farther away from loving yourself. And so, hey, I'm an answer. I'm an answer in every moment, expressed or not. Yes. I'm an answer. I carry a vibrational value that is an answer and a necessary in the world. Yes, absolutely. If I'm here, I'm an answer. And so that I can relax and I can notice and I can even sometimes recognize, oh, I can be an answer in that way. And you can also look around and go, oh, every other person I interact with is an answer.
Mm.
Yes. And so that's why, oh, let's go talk to them. Yes, let's find out more. Or sometimes they're an answer by showing you what you don't want. Yes.
Right.
So it's just paying attention. So I'm an add, I'm an answer. And the third one is I am an ask. And
Oh, I
there
love
we
it.
come again to inquiry. I'm an ask. And
Mm.
some people would say, oh, but I don't want to be a burden, you know. But no, I'm an ask. I'm a curiosity. I'm an instigator. Yes, I'm an important momentum in existence because I am an ask. And sometimes we look at that, take I am an ask. There's the ask that is inquiry that then you can, fill that curiosity with. Yes, like looking through all of those through inquiry, not demand. And there's a difference between insistence and demand. By the way, your self preservation is not in demand; it's an insistence. That's an alive and
Yeah.
um, uh, being an ask. So being an ask is an inquiry, helping to stimulate the world with curiosity and questions and exploration and discovery and just all of those sorts of things. Um, it's also being an ask is uh, desire. So I have desire. Like my ask is a desire, and that can also interact with being powerfully hungry. What is my desire? How does my desire move? Or how is my desire helpful? Or I have desire. I have an ask. I have desire for my life, for who I am, for how I share, for all of it. Yes, for what I need. And then the third one is for what what you need, and that's not needy. So what do I need to support my desire to travel with my curiosity to get to be who I am here to be? Yes, does that make
Yeah.
sense? We just get so excited, our friend, when we get any opportunity to step in with the who of what and who you actually are as humans. And we often say, it's never about the detail. The detail can hold lots of things in it, but it's about the experience and it's about your response to it. So even when you get kind of in your wobble, yes, or knocked off your feet or you've fallen on your bicycle, yes, what's my response to that? And what am I sourcing in myself and what am I sourcing in the all to look at how do I want to move with this thing? Because you might find yourself when if something occurs and you don't like it, you're going to have to go pop yourself out of the don't want field. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, let me center here and really recognize the infinity and the edgelessness and the curiosity and the creator that you are, and how do I respond and interact and let myself be messy and let myself be brilliant and embrace all of it as equal value. Yes, and let others be messy and brilliant. Often we say have grace and pause. It's very helpful. Humans are messy. Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Oh, I love that. And I love you mentioned curiosity so many times, and it's one of my favorite things because I think it's such a beautiful way of staying open and exploring. And then the way you just described ask in so many ways, that to me, I heard the word and you used it earlier, activator.
Yeah.
It's sort of like that curiosity and asking in that childlike,
Yes.
curious, open-ended way is
Yes.
an activator
Yes.
of like, how does this get any better? Like,
Yes.
how
Yes.
how is this gonna happen?
Yes,
I don't have
yes,
to know the answer, but I can ask and
yeah,
allow the universe, source, spirit
yes.
to answer that question.
Yes, because that's when the creation particles start wagging their tails. Yes. Ooh, let's bring matches. Let's bring the things that show. So when you get curious, then the particles activate to say, okay, they're asking, about this thing. Let's show them through this and this and this. And so then you're noticing. We always tell people, remember to notice. Yes, remember to notice what shows up. We have a wonderful friend who is a shaman, and he will tell lots of magical stories. And someone in his audience one day said, why do you see all of these things or experience all these things and I don't, or we don't? And a little bit, a little cranky, yes. And he was brilliant. He said, the actual question is, why do I notice and you don't?
Ah,
Yes. And so we really, notice, pay attention, because humans tend to like white magic out. Yes. Like somebody asks us, how can I see magic? We say, lay on the ground and watch a ladybug climb up a blade of grass. Yes. So it's everywhere all of the time. And yet, because of that don't want, because of the fear, because of trying to like fit in, or those separation things, um, you talk yourself out of what's actually real. Yes. And so it's letting yourself just pause and linger for a moment, be curious. And even like, I don't know exactly what that is, but I'm going to let it be there. And then it will cut when you leave the door open for it, it will find its timing with you. Yes, along with those particles that are wagging their tails, saying, let's bring you representations of what would satisfy your desire, or help you know something. When you were talking about, curiosity and the way you were, we also we see opinion as a closed circuit. And
mm,
a lot of people are happy to and feel passionate about sharing their opinions. And we truly like, hey, do it. If you love it, do it. Yes, absolutely. Just notice if it really fills you or not, if you really like it, or if it's just in a moment, or if it is long going, because everyone's there to have whatever experience. Yes. And yet we talk about, instead, sitting in a circle, instead of sharing opinions, what if you shared ideas and curiosities? Now
mm.
you've just turned it edgeless. Yes. And so if you listen through ideas and curiosity instead of opinion, yes, if you speak through ideas and curiosity, the field is so wide open and is vibrating, and everybody has access to. Maybe you're curious and you have an idea about something that isn't a match for someone else, but they can actually dip into the vibration of the idea and curiosity and feed their own. Yes. And call out their own, because whatever is in a room, that in you will open up. So say if you walk in a room and somebody's been, or you're even in a situation and somebody is angry, your angry is going to open up and say, hey, do you need me? Yes.
Yeah.
And so if you don't realize that, you can go, oh, now I feel angry. Yes. Instead, oh, I get what's happening. Yeah. I'm experiencing anger. It's a situation I'm in. It's not the self that I am. Yes. And so I don't really need my anger right now. I'll let you know though, because I might. And so I'll let you know, because anger is a catalyst aspect, anger, frustration, all of those things. They let you know that something needs to be very differing or different than it is right now.
Mm.
Um, the trick is, though, most people look outside and say that has to be different for me to be safe or for me to feel happy or whatever. It says what in me and how I'm showing up with myself needs to be different than, that fear or panic or don't want. How can I shift my relationship with myself? So even if I'm in the midst of anger, I still get to keep I can care for it, I can move with it, but I don't need to reflect it or feel it for myself. Yes, or take it in. Does that make sense?
Oh, yes.
And so,
I think that's the core, really. Everything you're bringing us back to is this idea of noticing and allowing the noticing to inform us of, is this my whole self-expression, or is this piece over here that is hurt or angry or
yeah,
broken, my opinions that it's hurt,
yeah,
angry, or
yeah,
or is it my whole expression? Because I can feel hurt, I can feel angry, I can feel
absolutely.
broken, but
Mhm.
that can just be me looking at this part, this little
Yes.
Like my finger, it's
Yes.
broken. Okay, I'll fix it.
Yes. Yes.
It's a
Yes.
whole of me. Yes.
Absolutely. So we're having some fun because, uh, if your finger's broken, we will tell you something about your miracle of a body.
Oh,
Every single molecule of your body, if you bump your elbow, you break your finger, yes, every other part of you will lend something of itself
yeah.
to care for the injured or the affected part of you. Yes. The
Oh.
difficulty can be if fear gets in there, your body can actually overgive also. So now all of a sudden I broke my finger and my hip hurts, or I feel, now I'm nauseous for 3 days. Sometimes your body overgives. So it's important to say, okay, I'm welcoming, this community of my body to give, but, and keep everything it needs for itself. Yes, because that's truly a reflection of how your world and your interaction of citizens of your world can move. Is when
Mm.
people overgive, they start to deplete, and then they start thinking they're starving. Yes, and then they need something from someone else. So when instead it's like, oh, I'm an answer, so I can offer, and an ad, I can offer something, but and not deplete myself. I get to be full and not give from what I need for me. I have plenty of extra to give to others. Yes. And when you really recognize that, then there's just so much more peace because people have what they need and they're receiving and offering, because you need to offer as much as you need to receive. Equal, not more, not less. Yes. And by the way, don't keep a measure or meter on that. Because if you're giving or receiving, you'll feel it. You'll
Well,
feel
no.
balance or out of balance. So the one more teaching we would like to share here, if we can, from what you're saying, is that one part. Yes, we started watching, and we come up with these names, and we have to walk people through them. Yes, so we call it our based on me teaching.
Mm.
Yes, and it actually came from looking at someone in the world who was pretty imbalanced by thinking everything was based on them. Yes, and then we started like, let's look at that. Let's see really how that plays out. So what we notice though is that if you're standing, if you have something going on, and truly we honor, and we really really encourage everyone to honor every part of you that has ever had to walk through something challenging. Love and honor that part of you that has held you through it, that was messy through it, that it's still maybe trying to figure out how to be whole and okay. Yes, love and honor every part of you that's ever experienced anything. And yet when you say, well, based on that this did or didn't happen when I was young, or what that person just said to me or didn't say to me, yes, based on that, if you anything outside of you, whether it's in current moment or maybe based on that this may or may not happen in the future, it can be past, present, future. Yes, when you say based on that, and it has to do with something outside of you or someone outside of you, and your next word is I, you're going
Mm.
to destabilize. Because, well, based on what my mom said to me when I was 5, or based on what how that person treated me in the store, yes, I, your energy is pulling from something outside of you. You're basing it on something that's not you.
Yes.
Yes. And we know it might sound just like a word. It's an action. It actually moves. We watch it. Yes. So based on that, and so we say, instead, say, the truth is, when I was 5, my mom said this to me. You're telling yourself the truth will always, it's going to move through whatever it needs to, and it will always have soothing that comes with it, because
Mm.
truth is going to care for you. Yes. And care for others. So the truth is, that person just was so rude to me. Yes. The truth is, they were rude to me. And then we take it to a next level, because we had a friend who we were talking to. She goes, oh, I got it. Okay, so based on, okay, the truth is, when I was growing, I didn't get the building blocks I really needed to feel really stable and confident in my life. And she said, I get that. Okay, I feel it better that I know it's the truth, instead of feeling precarious that it's based on that and I don't have anything to say about it. So here though, Mary, so the truth is that, and based on how I feel about that, is I feel rejected, I feel hurt, I feel incomplete, I feel incapable. And we're going, okay, well, let's hold on. Yes. Because that's true. Those are very personal about you and they're yours. And absolutely, yes. Yes. But if you say based on those things, you're still going to just be swimming around in unstable territory. Yes. Because what's happening is you're only looking at the parts of you that are adversely affected. You're
Mm.
a whole being. Yes. So you say the truth is, I feel rejected. I feel a lack of confidence. I feel, like life is hard. That's the truth. Tell yourself the truth about you always. Yes. And let yourself know if you're doing based on I feel that way, you're already willing to open the feeling. So you may as well tell yourself the truth. That's how you're feeling. All of those parts of you that we just said to honor because they experienced it. Truing and healing it is for them to be seen and felt and noted from you. Because a lot of times parts of you that kind of just knew how to survive and save you are kind of afraid you're upset with them. Yes. And so
Yeah.
when you see how you're feeling associated with something and those parts of oh, it's okay. I'm being seen and cared for however I knew how to and how I didn't know how to respond in those moments. And yet, and now I'm going to tell myself the truth about what occurred. And I tell myself the truth about how I'm feeling about it. And then you take that one more inhale and you say, based on the whole of me, I. That's where the I comes in. Because the whole of you is your whole self and everything you're connected into. Yes. And when you do it that way, well, the truth is this occurred. The truth is this is the destabilizing way it feels for me. And based on the whole of me, when you do that, curiosity comes in, your wisdom comes in, your edgelessness of knowing your reach is limitless comes in, your ingenuity and inventiveness, and you'll start realizing all kinds of ways you can move and how now that you're freed from being stuck with something outside of you, being stuck only in a small portion of yourself, you're open. There's all kinds of other things. Yes. And sometimes you'll direct apply and sometimes you'll start saying, I'm going to go do this. And then those other things start getting taken care of on the side. Yes.
Yes. Well, I can see how when we can say that this happened to me and therefore I'm not worthy. I feel like I'm not worthy. I've
Mhm.
lost, jobs. I can't hold a job, whatever those things are that
Mhm.
we associate with those
And
things. But
they're
when we
very real.
say our wholeness can see
Mhm.
all the other things that we are in that
Yes.
moment,
Yes.
i-
Yeah.
including why and not knowing, we don't have to know why or how they happen, but just knowing that that happened too. That's it. That's part of that
Yes.
wholeness.
Yes. That
And
because
that,
the and is in there and then the
yeah,
momentum can come
yeah.
in. And there's so much more to me than that. And again, it's not making that less or belittling it. It's just also letting all the good stuff. We talk about the rubber band stretch. Often people will have a tragic or trauma, and we say it stretches the rubber band. So if you see a rubber band and this piece stretches out, what happens with the human that we see is that once that's been stretched, you really don't know how to not have that stretch because you've experienced something of yourself you didn't know was there. And so coming back just to here in the stretch feels like something's missing now because you met a part of yourself and you don't want
Mm,
to leave it out. The confusion can come in where you keep tapping the same place in the rubber band. Well, I need another trauma, or I need to repeat this, or I need to keep doing the thing or inviting the thing that causes that to stretch so I can keep that part of me that I met. Yes.
mm,
We say, take a look. When one part of your rubber band stretches, it stretches all the way around. So all of these other ways of experiencing yourself, not in trauma, not in hardship, in new discoveries and other things you have never known from a widened idea and knowing and activated part of you gets to be felt too. And so you do know how to do the one that's trauma already. So try the others. Yes. How could it, how would it feel to be more joyful than I've ever felt or to, push back the boundaries of what I'm capable of? Yeah. So how would it feel to walk in that stretch now that I know I'm bigger than I knew I was? Because I handled that very difficult thing. And I'm going to care for the part of me that did and walked me through that. And I'm going to take us into all of this other stuff that we also get to experience.
Mm,
Yes?
yes. So beautiful.
Ah,
Well, I
thank you for
have
letting
more,
us
but
ramble.
what? I'm
Thank
sorry.
you for letting us ramble today.
Oh, yes, yes. I know. I have other questions, but you know what? What you brought up is so beautiful, so timely, and so perfect. And I'll just thank you and ask if there's anything you would like to add.
We suppose something we'd like to offer that we often offer is take yourself with you wherever you go.
Mm.
Get to know you, hang out with you, have tea with you, get into a conversation. Notice what feels like your voice and what feels like, and you can feel it by whether it feels heavy or light or just, curious. Yes. So take yourself with you. And anytime you're standing in a moment and it might feel too big for you, just take a saturating pause. Call on yourself to know how you want to respond. You are the most important. You're your very first intimate relationship. Your forever intimate relationship is with yourself. All the others are people who can complement that or not. Yes, and then you can make your choices around that. And yet don't miss out on you. Yes. And and in your life, let yourself have those joys. Let yourself actually breathe open into the simple moments that are just easy. Let yourself have those things and then let that kind of help be what guides you into what satisfies that powerful hunger. And by the way, you can leave your planet still feeling powerfully hungry and have been so well fed your whole life because you're always just going to want more when it's good. Yes. Very good. Very good.
Very true.
Oh,
Thank
she's so
you.
very.
Thank you so much. What a beautiful energy. I'm so excited to have met you and had you here. Should we invite Jackie back?
Hey. That's the
Oh
Mary.
my goodness. I just experienced the Marys. Holy cow. What an incredible time that was. I'm going to invite the listeners to go back. There was so much there. So much
Mhm,
with what you said before. I just feel like you set them up beautifully to really explore some of these just wonderful ideas with us. It was very
mhm.
powerful.
Thank you. Good. Glad you enjoyed it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
was laughing because I have to have you back because I have this, these questions that I'm really curious about, but
It'll be
they're
great. They
I
said
know.
they said next time you first.
Well, and I don't mind at all. The only thing I really want to mention is your book that you
Mhm,
channeled through the
mhm,
Marys, and it's called because they mentioned and you might have Without Edges, living with it's called
mhm,
Living Without Edges, and that
mhm,
is so meaningful for me because whenever I close my eyes for a moment, I can feel the edges really disappear, and it's that 5 minute meditation that you had talked about
yeah,
before, and the Marys mentioned just to be still and be with the breath. And it's that living without edges where there
mhm,
is infinite possibility and unlimited creativity. And that's so joyful, even with the pain or the trauma or whatever it is that
yeah,
we've
yep,
experienced. We
yep,
still move beyond including it, but
yeah,
moving to living
yeah.
without edges.
So much more.
And
Yep.
it's such a beautiful book, so I invite people to read that. I know it's
Thank
on your website, which is themarygroup.com.
Yeah, and Mary. So some people put in Merry, which they are rather merry. So I can see why.
Yeah, they are Mary, but it's Mary.
Uh-huh.
And that will be on the screen and in the notes. And
Great.
the book will too, but would you like to share some of the other things you offer? I know you have classes and private sessions still. Are you doing that?
Yeah, we do private sessions, hour long or half hour long. And our website, you can schedule on there if you want to talk with Mary specifically about, what's going on with you and how to walk through there. Somebody once called them psychiatrists on steroids because they just go bam right to the middle of things. Um, we do offer classes. We just at the beginning of this year, the Marys came in and talked about the actual consciousness of 2024. And then each quarter they've done like three things associated, with like what the year is partnering with us for our own growth. And our next one is for this final quarter, starts actually first week of December. It's 3 evenings. And they've connected them. So they've done soul and spirit and heart. And this one is actually mind, which the Marys always talk about our minds, plural. We have our thinking, processing mind, which they call the grand library. And then we have our being mind, which is where we connect in physical and non-physical. And they're going to really be moving with us on, I think it's recharge, renew, and then really learn what our minds are. Because we get these teachings that they really open you into understanding, what is your mind. They do this whole thing on Arc of Union where they call them the roommates, the heart, soul, spirit, and mind becoming good roommates instead of, conflicting roommates. And that's a powerful series. But we're going to do another series soon. So you can watch on our website or you can get on our mailing list on self-awareness, and they said all their teachings actually connect into truly actually really rooting and knowing and living through self-awareness, which is then all awareness. So it's extraordinary when you sit with them to do that. So if you want to get on our mailing list, you can do that through the website. We do have a Facebook page called A Soft, Warm, Humorous Place to Land. And the Marys just get on there and give you like a message most days. And just something to kind of ground in with, to think about, to take for as nourishment for the day, to help walk us through things that are challenging and also to help elevate us into who we actually are. So, yeah.
Well, I love that, and I love that they're doing something on self-awareness, because what I wanted to mention, but I know we're running long on time, but it was like and you can call it self-awareness or becoming or being the observer, observing ourselves in that loving, curious space of like,
Yeah.
oh, look, I'm getting really into fear over here. Oh, look, I'm really reacting to that
Right,
person being angry over here.
right.
That self-awareness, so I invite people to check that out on your website, because it
Yeah,
is key to being curious and to being childlike and to being giving some space between what we're experiencing and how it's taking us over, or we're just allowing
right,
it to be.
right.
We
Or
can allow it to.
remembering, like they said, that we are a self experiencing a situation. We're not the situation. And so learning really how to ground into that is so helpful.
Yes, well, I love that you're doing that.
Yeah.
Well, wonderful. I'm just gonna, and of course, I wanted to ask about 2025 and some other
Uh-huh.
wonderful things, but that just means we have to meet
Yeah,
again
talk
because,
again. Absolutely. I'd love that. It's really great. So wonderful meeting you, and your energy is just like, whew, yes.
thank you,
Yes is
thank
easy.
you. Well, I'm gonna have everything that we talked about on the notes, and the website and any of those things. And I just loved the book. I love the book title.
Mm.
And I invite everyone to check you out and check out the website. And I just want to thank everyone for joining us today. And if you like this, please hit the like button. It helps get this incredible message out to more people with the wonderful YouTube algorithms and all those fun things. And share it with a friend. I bet they could be so uplifted by this particular video. It was just had so much wonderful things in it. I know that they're going to be inspired as I was. And I invite you to join me every week for a new insight into how we can love our life and live our passion, integrating spirit, mind, and body. And just remember to laugh, love, and live enlightened every day. You agree
Fully,
with that, Jackie?
absolutely, yes.